Let's talk about a 2018 iPad. But wait, which one? Well, in this video I'm going to cover everything we currently know and everything we expect to see in the entire iPad lineup in 2018. So iPad mini 5, iPad Pro 3, and also, do you remember that iPad that Apple introduced in 2017? So, you know, that iPad that's just called the iPad. We might see an updated version of that as well. So grab some popcorn or whatever snacks you want to grab, because this is going to be one long but very interesting and exciting video with lots of things that I want to cover. So yeah, enjoy. Okay, so first off we have the iPad mini. So in terms of the iPad mini, this is actually my personal iPad. Yes, I have an iPad mini 4, which is the only iPad that I currently use. I really like the small and the compact form factor, and especially when you're traveling on a plane, especially if that plane is Wizz Air. That's the airline that I use the most, by the way. Hashtag not sponsored. But they do have some really small tables, and the iPad mini is the only iPad that fits on those. So that's why I have an iPad mini. Not really. That's not the only reason. The iPad mini is also Apple's tablet with the highest pixel density, or PPI, of 326. So overall I think it's perfect for people who want a tablet that's small and compact that, you know, can still do everything that a larger iPad can do. However, the only issue is that Apple hasn't updated the iPad mini 4 since 2015. We didn't get an update in 2017 when Apple updated the iPad Pros. So what's going to happen with the iPad mini 5? Well, basically there are two theories. So the first case is that Apple has, killed the iPad mini lineup, especially since iPhone displays are getting bigger and bigger every single year. Check out my iPhone 2018 leaks and rumors if you want to see how the display on the iPhone will actually increase next year on the iPhone 10, iPhone 11, or iPhone 9. So definitely check out this video if you want to know more about the next year's iPhones. And case number 2 is that Apple will indeed release an iPad mini 5 in 2018. Now, unfortunately, we've had quite a few reports, one coming from BGR, saying that Apple has killed the iPad mini lineup. However, in case Apple does release an iPad mini 5 in 2018, so next year, here's everything you need to know and everything we expect to see in the iPad mini 5 in 2018, if that's the case. So the main changes would be in terms of the performance. The iPad mini 4 still comes with an Apple A8 processor, making it even slower than an iPad Air 2 from 2014. And yes, with iOS 11, my iPad mini 4 lags a lot. But the iPad Air 2, by the way, is really fluid with that Apple A8X processor. So the Apple A11 is a pretty likely possibility for the iPad mini 5, and when it comes to the RAM, this is most likely going to be increased to 3 GB of RAM, to match the amount of RAM on an iPhone Plus model. So the iPhone 8 Plus, the iPhone 10, and the iPhone 7 Plus. Don't expect to see 4 GB of RAM because that's only on the iPad Pros. Now, the camera is also going to be improved. So at the moment, the iPad mini 4 has an iPhone 5S camera module. This is going to be improved to at least an iPhone 6S module to allow 4K video recording, but don't expect anything higher than that. Especially if Apple wants to keep the cost low. But apart from the performance improvements and the small camera improvements, don't expect anything major with the iPad mini. Now moving on to the iPad 2018. Now in case you don't know which iPad I'm talking about the iPad, the cheap entry-level iPad that Apple has introduced in 2017. So I've actually done an in-depth 20+ minute review of this. And overall, it's honestly a great tablet. So it comes with the Apple A9 processor. It's very fast. My only complaint would be the fact that it comes with an iPad. It comes inside an iPad Air 1 body. So this means that it's thicker than the iPad Air 2. You don't have a laminated display, which is actually a very big deal breaker for a lot of people, including myself. And of course, it's also much heavier than the iPad Air 2 and the iPad Pro 9.7 inches. And this iPad actually did pretty well when it came to sales. So Apple is most likely going to update this iPad in 2018. So what improvements are we going to see in this iPad? Well, the iPad Air 2 body is indeed expected. So an iPad Air 2 body, this means a laminated display and also a thinner and a lighter body overall. The price is most likely going to remain the same, and the camera is most likely going to remain the same as well. Now, in terms of the processor, don't expect the Apple A11 chip. No, I would say Apple A10 is most likely going to be the one that's going to be included in the 2018 iPad. But even the Apple A10 processor, it's the same processor that we get in the iPhone 7. It's a really powerful processor. Okay, now moving on to the iPad Pro 3, or the iPad Pro 3rd generation. So in 2017, the iPad Pro 9.7 inches got a very big upgrade. So the bezels were significantly reduced, and we got a much larger 10.5 inch display and almost almost the same form factor. Now, the larger 12.9 inches iPad Pro, this one didn't get any design changes, unfortunately. So this is expected to change in 2018. So the iPad Pro 12.9 inches is either going to get some thinner bezels in a smaller form factor, and in that case it would keep the same 12.9 inches display, or the second option would be thinner bezels, the same form factor, and in that case a larger 13.1 or 13.2 inches display. Let me know in the comments which variant would you actually pick, a more compact form factor, same display size, or the same form factor but a slightly larger display. Now, in terms of the performance, we are going to get the Apple A11X processor. This is definitely going to be the choice here, and this is going to be insane when it comes to performance. So the Apple A11 chip, this is the one that's inside the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10. This one is even more powerful than most Intel i5 or i7 Kaby Lake laptop processors. So it's crazy powerful, and the Apple A11X processor is going to be even better than the Apple A11. Okay, so far it doesn't seem like anything interesting, just some small performance improvements, some small camera improvements, and maybe some thinner bezels on the 12.9 inches iPad Pro. So at the moment it seems pretty dull. So let's move on to the more exciting stuff. Okay, so Min-Chi Kuo, you've probably heard of Min-Chi Kuo from KGI. He's one of the most accurate sources when it comes to Apple leaks. So he reported that in 2018, Apple would be upgrading the iPad Pros with a true depth camera. So just like the one on the iPhone 10. So this means that the iPad Pros, if this is the case, they will all support Face ID, just like the iPhone 10. So if Face ID is going to be on the 2018 iPad Pros, then Touch ID is going to be removed. But if Touch ID is going to be removed, then it means that we won't have we won't have a home button. So this means that the bezels will definitely be much thinner or even removed entirely on both the iPad Pro models. And yes, the iPad Pros would be completely redesigned to look like the iPhone 10. So this means zero bezels apart from the notch on the top, and possibly even an OLED display. Now, I know all of this sounds amazing, and it actually is. I just cannot wait for such an iPad. But if you pause for a second, and yeah, just pause for a second, not a video, and let's analyze this. So I don't think this is happening in 2018, even though this would be awesome, but I don't think it's going to happen in 2018, and here's why. Okay, so Apple is still facing a ton of production issues with that depth camera on the iPhone 10. So that's why the supply is so limited for the iPhone 10, because of that true depth camera. That's actually the main reason. And the manufacturers are saying that the production issues with the true depth camera on the iPhone 10 would only be fixed in fall 2018. So after September 2018, Apple would be able to catch up with the production for the iPhone 10. So having a true depth camera for the iPad Pros as well, that might be out of the question now. And the same thing goes with the OLED displays. So Apple is getting all of their OLED displays, by the way, from Samsung. Yes, Samsung is actually the world's largest OLED manufacturer, and they produce the best OLED displays. But even Samsung is having a lot of issues themselves manufacturing so many OLED displays for, Apple. Because keep in mind that Samsung already has to manufacture all of those displays for their own smartphones as well, not just Apple. So OLEDs on the iPads is even less likely to happen than the true depth camera. So overall, spec bump, and then camera improvements from the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10. So iPhone 8 and iPhone 10 sensor when it comes to the camera, and possibly thinner bezels on 12.9 inches iPad Pro. These are most likely going to be the changes and the only changes that we're going to see in the iPad Pros in 2018. But now I want to talk about something that some of you might remember from a long, long time ago. And that's Apple's ecosystem. So this thing used to work perfectly for, a few years ago. It used to work perfectly, but Apple is now focusing more on iOS than on macOS. And there's a lot of inconsistencies between iOS and macOS, even in major first-party apps such as iMessage. So iMessage still lacks a ton of features on the Mac compared to iOS. So features that iOS has had for a few years, like the text effects and so on, you cannot actually see those on the Mac. Like, why? But what's even worse is all the UI inconsistencies now. So just take a look at the iPhone 10. You no longer have a home button. So to go home, instead of 3D touching like you used to do before on the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8, you have to swipe up. And then to activate multitasking, you have to swipe up and wait. And then to activate Control Center, you have to swipe down from the right hand side. And if you want to activate the Notification Center, you have to swipe down from the middle. So it's a mess. And it's not just that, but all the other iOS devices, so all the iPads and all the other iPhones, even the iPhone 8, which was, released in 2017, all of them still use the same gestures that we've had for years. So, home button, swipe up for control center, and so on. So either Apple updates this on the iPhone 10 to make it the old way, or Apple has to update all the new iPads to the new gestures, which basically means no home button on the iPads, and also that really, really thin design on all the iPad models, not just the iPad Pros. By the way, we still don't have a 3D touch display on the iPads. We've had it on the iPhone for like the past 2 years, and also wireless charging. So we have it on the iPhone 8, the iPhone 10, but wireless charging, this is a bit trickier to do on the iPads because you need a glass back. And an iPad with a glass back this big, it's really expensive to manufacture, and two, it's very, very easy to break. So I'm pretty sure that Apple won't be doing this anytime soon. So I don't know, I'm not sure when or if wireless charging will be ever coming to the iPads. It's probably not coming anytime soon until Apple has a longer range wireless charging system. So I've actually done a video on the iPhone 10 about this, by the way, because it turns out that the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10 they both support long-range wireless charging. So check out this video if you want to know more about that, but it's supported on the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10. And once we get a wireless charging pad or a transmitter that supports that from Apple, at some point we will, then the iPads will be including wireless charging as well. So there you go, everything to expect in the 2018 iPad. So long story short, smaller changes are most likely going to happen than those big ones like OLED, small bezels, and the true depth camera changes. But at some point, so if not in 2018, then definitely in 2019, we will see an iPad with at least the true depth camera, if not an OLED display as well. So most likely OLED displays in 2020 or maybe 2019, but 2020 I would say most likely, and then true depth camera in 2019 if not 2018. But yeah, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more leaks and rumors videos like this one, and also enable notifications so that you're notified whenever a new epic video comes out. Check out my 2018 iPhone leaks and rumors if you want to know more about what to expect in 2018 on the new iPhones. Feel free to give this video a like if you have enjoyed it. Well, I said that pretty fast. Let me know in the comments which iPad are you most looking forward to, which iPad model. For me, that would be the new iPad Pro, because I'm thinking of upgrading my mini to the iPad Pro. But yeah, let me know in the comments which one are you looking most forward to, and what changes do you think the entire iPad lineup needs? An OLED display, the true depth camera, thinner bezels, a larger display, smaller displays, I don't know. But do let me know. But yeah, this has been pretty much it for this video, so thank you for watching until the end. I'm Daniel, and see you guys in my next one. Son of Tech, signing out. Cheers.